Welcome to episode 330 of the Working Fans Podcast. This weekend, we had the big premiere of TNA on AMC. Dave and I have not talked one word about this. Dave, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give the first episode?
I'll give it a 7.5 to 8.
Wow. I was going to say 6.5 to 7.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little upset with some technical difficulties I had on the app. That's what brought it down a little bit for me. There wasn't a major thing. Like, Jared, we did get AJ Styles show up, which I thought was cool. We knew that
wasn't bad for what it was.
Oh, God. What was her name? We had the new assistant GM there, Daria.
Yeah, I only knew her as Sonya Deville because I know that the name they used on screen for her is like close to her regular name.
Yes, yeah. You know,
and I didn't hate that. That was the first segment that felt like TNA, though, where I'm like, all right, here we go.
They brought back Cora Jade as Elvira Black. So I believe she wrestled in the Independence as.
I'm not mad at that either. Bringing in new talent, not bad.
Bringing in new talent. The Elegance brand is now the women's tag champs again.
That's where I draw the line with new talent. Because that also felt like a TNA segment as well.
A little goofy. You know, Mike Santana winning the title was the right move. It's the move that should have happened. So for that, you get extra points from me. So that made it a feel-good show at the end.
I got a question about that Santana thing, though.
Yeah.
If they had saved the title change for just that show, would it have been more impactful? Or did they kind of do it when they did it to build up Frankie Kazarian as this, like, not evil person, but person that you just don't like and you want to see get toppled?
They shouldn't have took the title off of Mike Santana to begin with, honestly. The Bound for Glory thing was special, and to have him just lose it a few days later was not necessary. I know why you did it. You wanted a big moment on your first episode. We could have got around that another way. You know what I mean? We could have set something else up. And
I was trying to brainstorm that. How would you have pitched, like, working around that? You know, what would you have done? Maybe a disputed finish at Bound for Glory, like a Dusty type finish where there's a lot of, like, arguing over who had the win. And then it gets settled for good on TV because, like, it just felt like a deflated moment, I feel like, on AMC.
Yeah. I mean, and I did like the end, though. They said that, you know, the winner's going to have to face the champion in an automatic rematch on Genesis for this weekend. So I thought, okay, that's good. Even though I expect Santana to win.
Yeah.
You are leading. And there is another live Impact this coming week, the way it's set up. So I think after that, they'll be taped. And then I don't know when the next live one after that would be. But there is another live one. So it is interesting. We've set up some stuff here. I thought the production was really nice, like that crowd.
Yep, that crowd looked full. It sounded loud. They looked excited.
It looked full. It looked good. But if you're going to nitpick, you know what didn't look full or good was when they put those social media sections up or the like the celebrities. Those actually look kind of empty. And I'm like, why would you do that? You know, like, just, I don't know. I didn't like the way that looked. Other than
that was weird because, like, I don't know if I'm just out of touch with culture, but I was not aware of who anyone was besides Perez Hilton. And even then, I'm not familiar with him. I've heard the name around, but, like, I couldn't tell you what they've done.
No, they were a social media influencer, and they made the comment. He was
the two guys that came out with the Hardys. I didn't know who they were either. Thank God we weren't in that spot. Yeah. People are watching this. Like, I don't know who these two are.
Yeah, overall, I thought a good look to the new show. There's just a few things. It's not, you know what I'm really curious about? Like, I'm not as big into the ratings as other people are and stuff like that. I don't live and die by that.
I just watch what I like. And, like, sometimes I'll be like, oh, that was a bum ass show, or, like, that was a good one.
But I am curious because I have no idea what kind of ratings to expect that, like, TNA would get. Because they've been on, like, Access TV for so long, which nobody really gets Access TV for the most part. And I think they get like 30,000 views or maybe 100 or something like that. It's nothing really. So now being a major platform, but not having been on a major platform for so long, like, what can they even expect to get? Like, I'm kind of curious, you know, what's a win for them? is 200,000 a win for them? Is 100,000 a win for them? You know what I mean? Like if they pull in AEW numbers, even though AEW is like considered like struggled a bit, would that be like an amazing win for TNA? Like, you know what I mean? Like where are they going to be? Where do they land? And what's good for them? I'm not quite curious at this point.
I'm almost going to argue that there is no win for them. They're either going to be compared against their old numbers or they're going to be compared against WWE and AEW.
Right.
And everything's going to be deemed a failure no matter where they hit. That's just what I'm thinking. Like, if people are how they are, like, give it a chance, maybe.
Yeah.
But the moment that sunk this show the worst for me, and I'm not a fan of Carlos Silva, like, when I see him out, I'm like, oh, this is, like, why? And then he brings out Dixie Carter.
Yeah.
And to, like,
about that. I
to
forgot.
broadcast those boos through so much of that segment, and like she could not win the crowd back, like maybe slightly, but the boos were still constant. And I was like, I get kind of why you have her there. Yeah. But to me, it doesn't feel like progress bringing her out in any way. Like maybe put it out on social media. But when I saw that, I'm like, oh, what are we doing here?
It would have been better served as one of those people by ringside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, just, you know, hey, we have former President Dixie Carter here. What a moment. What does this feel like to you to see this here? Yeah, maybe not make
I would say don't even talk to her, like show her. And then if you get there's an idea there's booze, like cut away. I did enjoy them announcing the system's new member next week. I feel like that's something to look forward to. They did some things right, but it just felt like they still TNA'd it up.
One thing I did like too also was Zarya being announced for Genesis. Yeah, and they're going to do that. And yeah, it's interesting because obviously, too, you know, we're not getting Leon Slater now. So I guess maybe we'll get him on SmackDown tonight. I hope so. But Joe Henry is now going to be involved in a match with Moose and Cedric Alexander. And so I thought overall it was a good show. But yeah, a mix bag. It is funny, Joe. You said around 6.5 to 7. I would say so. I'm a little more the optimist, but yes, I think we're kind of in the same ballpark for the most part.
Yeah, it's in that same thing where like it wasn't at the cusp of like an even number. It was like just about there.
Yeah. Overall, not a home run. More like we got on base. You know. And, yeah, we're hoping for a home run. Yeah.
Now, I heard there was a lot of visa issues. I think Santino mentioned it in the broadcast. So, like, maybe that affects things a little bit. And now that we're talking about TNA now, let's talk about TNA over the years. I don't know if we've ever gone in depth talking about them. When did you become a TNA fan? When was like your prime time of watching them?
Weekly pay-per-views with AJ. When they first came out, AJ was big into renting them for like the $9.99 a month. And it was interesting back then. You know, you get guys like Nikita Koloff and Dusty Rhodes showing up, or Lex Luger showing up. Vader showed up for an appearance. And, you know, and then through that all around that time period too. And it kind of becomes a blur, so forgive me, but I remember seeing guys like Roderick Strong, the Messiah, the Backbreaker early on. Obviously AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and then eventually Samoa Joe, who wasn't there as early but did get there. You know, those were, I remember early on, but like, you know, well, I guess we're going to save some for the favorite moments of TNA. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I was rocking with TNA in the very beginning, most week pay-per-views, and then I think I left for a bit, and then I came part of the Fox Sports era, and then I was there for the Spike TV era, and then eventually tapped out, and I was never part of like Destination America or anything like that. And it wasn't until they eventually get on Access where I've been in and out over the last few years.
Now, early on, what was the feeling? Like, did you see them as a viable alternative? Did you like it? Did it feel second rate?
I liked it. I thought about it as something different, but that's probably more a reflection on me as a wrestling fan. Like and that's not to toot my own horn. I just never looked at them as like, oh, this is competition for WWE. It's kind of funny, which is going to probably be one of my least favorite moments, but when you talk about competition, I never really thought about a competition until like Hogan and Bischoff kind of came in there for a little bit, where that did not work out. But being on Spike TV, being on a live primetime spot, going up against Monday Night Raw for a little bit, then I thought, oh, could this be a competitor for WWE? It didn't, but you know what I mean? There was that brief time. That was probably the only time where I thought of them as like potentially competition.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Like, I got into them mainly during that Destination American era. That's kind of when I came back to wrestling.
Yeah.
And I was, seeing what was out there, and it wasn't the greatest. Like when I was watching it, I felt like I was watching a second-rate show that at times had some like golden moments. And I don't think it was until like the Beatdown Clan where I was like, I can get behind these guys. That was MVP, Bobby Lashley. I'm trying to think. Low Key was in there. And then I was getting TNA DVDs where I'd find the old, watching some of the old pay-per-views. And like, there were wrestlers I liked on there, but there was nothing that like stuck for me that I'm like, oh, these guys are awesome. I was like, it's an interesting alternative, but you're going to be watching some crap on there.
Yeah.
And I've stuck with them ever since now, and they've been through waves and flows. And it's kind of like I always have this hope for them, but it seems like they consistently let me down.
Yeah,
we've been on a good run the last 3-4 years, though, I'd say.
Yeah, consistently going up. A few moments here and there, where there's some stuff that's kind of silly or whatever, but I'd say for the most part, TNA has been consistently putting a good product out there. I think someone's called it best. Really, the only thing they kind of dropped the ball on in the last few years was maybe getting rid of Scott D'Amore. Like maybe, that was probably a mistake, you would think. But other than that, I would say everything else has been pretty solid, and the company's staying up there where it needs to be right now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. And now that we've kind of talked about our histories with TNA, let's get into some of our favorite TNA moments. I gave away one of mine. That was watching the Beatdown Clan early on. I just really liked MVP in there. Bobby Lashley was devastating, low key. It felt like almost like a Black Four Horsemen in a way. And it's something that I think we've seen them almost try and recreate with the Hurt Business and the Hurt Syndicate.
So, early on, one of the great angles, no pun intended, it really got me into it was Kurt Angle showing up in TNA and Samoa Joe, who had been built, I believe, was undefeated at that time, too, and was just this monster wrecking people in TNA with his reputation from Ring of Honor. And that was one of my favorite moments early on. Like, still probably, possibly my favorite, just the stare down they had where Kurt headbutts Samoa Joe and, gets some bleeding and they end up brawling. I love all that. There's obviously the famous triple threat match for the X Division title with Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Christopher Daniels. That is amazing. I have to include this. I actually just watched it last night, so I was a little bit biased, but I'd forgotten about this. 2005 Monsters Ball match. Abyss, Sabu, Jeff Hardy, and Rhino all going at it. Rhino winning with a pile driver on Jeff Hardy off the ropes into the ring. And just an amazing stuff in here. The Monster Ball, the X Division, and I would say Kurt Angle and guys like Sting are some of my favorite moments in TNA history.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick Kurt Angle in there. I really like the Wolves in TNA. The Hardys, we got the Broken Hardys from TNA. That's probably one of the best angles to come out of one of the worst eras. Obviously, AJ Styles classic, like going back and watching the DVDs, seeing all the great AJ Styles matches over the years. How did you like their idea of doing a whole pay-per-view of steel cage matches?
Oh, no, I was never a fan of that, honestly. Although I think there was some great moments and I think there was some great moments. It was felt, even early on, that felt like overkill to me. Like I didn't like that. And same with WWE when they have to force us that Elimination Chamber pay-per-view every year. And, the War Games thing, even though I like War Games, it feels like it's kind of overdone. I wish that we didn't do them at least once a year. I wish that they would be built up. A whole card? No, I'm good.
Yeah, because you get some good matches out of it. I think there's a classic Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle match. I want to say that took place in Massachusetts.
It was Skipper.
That was another crazy moment. But yeah, doing the whole thing hurts. One thing that they talked about bringing back, and I'm just going to get to our next one because I almost feel like there's a lot more least favorite TNA moments than favorites. They're bringing back Feast or Fired next week on TV, and not my favorite match because it's almost like one person's got to get fired, and you figure it's got to be a work if they're doing it on TV. Sometimes you're like, could it be their way of getting rid of somebody? Is there anybody else on the way out? That's one of my least favorite. You mentioned another one of my least favorite, and it's just going back and watching it historically is the Bischoff Hogan era coming in, where it's like knowing that it didn't work, just watching it completely in retrospect. I'm like, why would you do that? It's like you
They
fucked
brought
everything with that moment.
They brought in a over the hill Nasty Boys at the time and had them feud with the Dudleys and stuff. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff. And that Vince Russo style of booking, you know, at different times too, or it's just crash TV, like something's happening every second. It got old, you know.
It's hard to remember too, because there was so much shit crammed in there that it's like, oh, what stands out amongst the Russo? I think Russo in general, is definitely a mark on them. He's done some good, he's done some bad.
Another thing too is like even just talking about last night too is like I'm on the TNA Plus app and the feed broke out. Like I didn't watch the one thing I missed was the Hardys and Elijah in the first match, you know, against Mustafa and Order 4, and I'm thinking like, oh, that probably was a banger match, and I come back in when the Righteous is pulling on Jeff Hardy's earring there and tying to the rope and all that stuff, which, whatever. Good angle, I'm sure, but it's a pain in the ass. And that stuff has kind of been notorious with TNA too. Like the production eras throughout the year can be very frustrating.
So I remember I bought like one of those Global Force Wrestling pay-per-view packages, and it came with a subscription to Global Force Plus, the predecessor to TNA Plus, and you got 3 free months. So bought the pay-per-views, watched them, they were all right. Yeah. First month, I'm getting charged for the TNA thing. So I get to them through email, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll apply that. Second month, I get charged. I have to keep emailing them and reminding them that, hey, like get this free. And it was just way more of a pain in the ass than it was worth. Not saying that like that's indicative of what's happening now, but it's like TNA cannot shake that. And that's why I think when we look at ratings, they're going to be judged by their past because they can't get out of the way of themselves. And little things don't help, like the Bruce Pritchard podcast, where he talked about his whole time in TNA and everything that went wrong. Them just always TNAing it up. So it's tough to enjoy them, but they really do put out a unique product. Like, remember when they were working with AEW? How that was another favorite thing of mine. I forgot.
Yeah. The Kenny Omega belt collector.
And then like it fell apart, and then it's like they just never acknowledged each other again. So it was kind of crazy in that way.
Yeah.
Any other big moments that stand out for you negatively?
Negatively, you know, if you get away from the Hogan Bischoff era, you get away from all the production eras and stuff like that. One thing I'd say that went a little too long, there was a positive for them overall, but almost like the NWA went a little too long, was that Aces and Eights. Aces and Eights, I thought, went just a little too long. And for me, that's kind of where I checked out for a little while. Like that had just dragged on, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with this company right now.
I've only seen that in retrospect. I haven't watched it all the way through. I'll have to check it out. Obviously, Claire Lynch is a notorious AJ Styles angle. Like, I don't know. Like, after this first episode, we've both given our ratings. Where do you see TNA headed to? Do you think it's going to be a good start? Are they kind of where they are? Or did they bury themselves after that first episode?
No, I think, I think ending with Mike Santana winning the title, again, was the right call, and having AJ Styles on the right call. I don't know if they did enough to bury themselves or knock a home run. I think it's going to be a wait and see, and it's really too early to tell. I could just be positive because I want to root for TNA and say, hey, they're going to be a competitive third brand company by the end of this year. But I have no clue. We're going to have to wait and see what these ratings are when they come out. And I'm not a big ratings guy, but if we're just forgetting about what we like and talking about the success of the company, we're going to have to wait and see what kind of ratings they produce on AMC and what these crowds continue to look like. If they continue to look like they did last night and, they can get something close to what AEW does on AMC, then, hey, this could be a company that's going to stick around for a little while longer. And ultimately, I hope it does.
100%. And we've talked a lot of TNA today. Dave, I don't know if you noticed the title of the episode.
Yeah.
Yay or nay? Because I made it to that part with D, and I'm like, oh, this is not working out. We're going to talk a couple quick news notes, and then on the Patreon, we'll talk about Drew McIntyre as WWE champion, and we'll throw a couple other things in there. First, the news kind of came out yesterday. The one that I heard about was the Rascals to AEW. Very interesting, because if I'm not mistaken, Myron Reed was supposed to be on this pay-per-view. I think this is a great pickup for AEW. This was a great indie faction. They're a great tag team. We've seen it time and time again. What did you hear about this, and how likely is this right now?
This is a done deal. They were backstage at Dynamite. They weren't used for some reason, but I think there was even a vignette that might have been used on Dynamite. I'd have to go back. I missed it though. But yeah, they're in. All four of them are in. Myron Reed, too, I do want to say, I heard it on Post Wrestling reports were that he was going to do the X Division Championship match with Leon Slater, but it was WWE who wanted Leon Slater in Wembley and stuff like that. And so that kind of put the kibosh on that match, which is interesting to note because WWE has been a good partner for the most part, but it sounds like that's the reason we didn't get Leon Slater versus Reed. But Reed, coincidentally, is in AEW now too.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think they're going to be a great fit. I had heard about this. You threw something else in the notes that did you have anything else to say?
Just that I think they're great. I think, you know what, they had success in NXT, they had success in TNA, and independently GCW, Beyond Wrestling. These guys have killed it. So yeah, I think they're going to do well, and we'll see some championship gold around these guys at some point too.
And we'll close out with another news item. This one took me by surprise. I want to know how you heard about this. Hobbs to WWE. Looking at him, perfect fit. He's done all right in AEW, but I feel like he could be so much bigger. What's going on with Hobbs and WWE?
Fightful Select. That's the first place I heard it. Sean Ross Sapp said that his contract expired on Wednesday at midnight. Coincidentally, there was a trios match booked for Collision. Spoiler, I won't tell you who the new champs are, but it ain't Hobbs anymore. So they are gone. And then I listened to Dave Meltzer talked about Sean Sapp's report too, and he said basically that WWE felt confident they had him for a long time and that he could always go back to AEW. And everybody's talking about it like it's a wrap. I only put question mark on it because unlike the Rascals who were reported backstage, we still haven't seen Hobbs show up in WWE, but this seems about as official as it can be without, actually seeing him yet. That everybody that has some influence in this, type of bubble is reporting it as a fact that Powerhouse Hobbs is done with AEW and I believe is signed with WWE or is about to be.
A lot of the times these reports come out and it's when somebody's contract ends. We saw the same thing with Jericho. Mm-hmm. This one makes a lot of sense though, because, never been in WWE, go there, get the rub from them, can always come back to AEW bigger. And that would be interesting. Mm-hmm. But that's going to be the episode for this week. We're going to play a quick commercial, come back, talk some Drew McIntyre, and who knows, maybe some other wrestling talk. But first, here's Ray Lopez. Author Ray Lopez presents Lockup, professional wrestling in our world. Lockup dives headfirst into the colorful world of professional wrestling. Explore the iconic characters, careers, matches, history, and families, and delve into the bizarre and fascinating entwining of professional wrestling and film, television, football, politics, gender, and race. Pre-orders are available now on Amazon.com or at MascotBooks.com. This is the perfect gift for the wrestling fan in your life. Pick up a copy today on Amazon.com or at MascotBooks.com.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harrison, Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville. It's where wrestling lives.